I think it's fair to say James Gunn's Superman is going to be the most controversial movie, not just of the summer, of the year. You're either going to love it or hate it. And based on the information going around, now that it appears that a lot of people have seen it, not just people that are being flown all over the world, not just Warner Brothers partners, a lot of people have seen it. You're either going to love it or hate it. So much information has come out, and it's not all being glazed in this movie. In fact, there's been some quite negative things said about this movie based on people that have watched it. And I can already see people saying, oh, you're a Zack Snyder fanboy if you don't like it. That's just the world we live in. So, according to a source with reliable sources who's worked in the film industry and attended a recent screening, you're either going to love this movie or hate it. We're also going to go over the post-credit scenes, which kind of seem pretty pointless. So what did they have to say? The Superman comic fans will love that it's a love letter to the comic books. However, the Zack Snyder Man of Steel fans will hate it that it's got a goofy side. Things like Guardians of the Galaxy. Regarding the general audience, that's where the money will actually be made. This person says they may not like it and could feel frustrated because the movie apparently is very fast-paced. Some of the details and jokes may fly over their heads. That's interesting. David as Superman brings us to humanity. So, the information says David delivers a solid performance as Clark Kent, bringing vulnerability and uncertainty to both Superman and his human side. The insider said his portrayal adds a much-needed human element to the character that past films haven't fully explored. We get to see both an unsure Superman and an unsure Clark Kent, which I actually think was rather nice. The fast pace, the film doesn't rehash Superman's origin. Instead, it jumps right into the action, which is neither good or bad in my opinion. While this means less character development for the supporting cast, source notes that the movie is moving that fast and keeps the energy high. Hardcore DC fans might appreciate skipping the usual setup. That's going to be quite the similar case for a lot of reboots. Like the Fantastic Four, they're skipping over that as well. A comic movie for comic fans, general audience could be lost. James Gunn is said to have packed Superman with a deep cut reference, comic book style pacing, and a lot of characters again. The tone is said to be similar to the Guardians of the Galaxy than Man of Steel, which is neither a good thing or a bad thing. Guy Gardner. So, the source says that fans of the comics may appreciate characters like Nathan, Guy Gardner, but casual audiences could find some of the humor and characters very off-putting and confusing. If you're not a hardcore comic book fan, you're just going to think this character is a buffoon. He's supposed to be funny, but you don't get the jokes, which is true. But any extrovert character, really, he's just going to be irritating. And he looks irritating from said trailers. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. The Lois Lane storyline is a little bit complicated. It goes through as a rush, says the source. We see a bit of development of the relationship. They show the friction there will be in this relationship. The journalist and the superhero that works really well together. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. He's pretty good, actually. We know that because Nicholas Hoult is a great actor. The takeaway, James Gunn's Superman is Rocky Balboa. So the real takeaway, apparently, is if you're into comics, you'll really like and enjoy what James Gunn's done. That's pretty much the case with all his movies. However, if you're expecting a traditional Superman flick, even something like the Christopher Reeve, you may just leave the cinema disappointed, as it sounds like James Gunn's film is more on the comedic side. And either way, the movie reportedly goes all in on Gunn's vision, for better or worse. It reminded me of when the source was telling me about the Rocky scene, when he says it's not about how hard you get hit, it's about how hard you get up. So you're either going to love this movie or hate it. And that seems to be the opinion of a lot of people that have seen this movie. And you could be called a glazer if you love this movie. I think people just want a generally good movie, and I think it will be a solid movie. But if the general audience isn't going to really gel with this movie, it seems like it's very fast-paced, which is not a good thing or a bad thing. It's an interesting thing. So James Gunn did say months ago that the post-credit scenes that he's going to do aren't going to be Marvel-wise. They're not really going to go anywhere. So according to fake insider, My Time to Shine, they really have a bad track record. There's two post-credit scenes. One is Superman with Krypto on the moon looking at the Earth. Well, that's already been shown in a recent TV spot. The second is Superman and Mr. Terrific looking at a giant crack in a massive building because the ground is split in half during the finale, and Soup says it's crooked, and Terrific gets all annoyed and walks away and kicks a rock. It's a funny scene. Are they worth seeing? Perhaps not. But, I mean, I guess I could understand why he's done this. Seeing as there was an Adam Warlock post-credit scene in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, then we didn't see Adam Warlock for like 5 years after. The post-credit scenes should go somewhere. But if they're just there for comedic value, then realistically, should have just been put in the movie. So, as you know, we live in the 21st century in the internet world. And someone said this: do people actually expect unbiased reviews from content creators who are getting flown access just trying to see how close we are to drinking a brandwich? And it's interesting. Brandon Davies came back and said this, because I find this quite interesting. Generally, who do you want to hear a review? Reactions from anymore? People get flown to watch the movie in another city. People can't interview filmmakers. People can't get a free pop figure at an event. For F's sake, to keep your crybaby from chin. Watch how studios might give someone a popcorn and soda if they see a movie 2 days before the release. Find someone who literally buys a ticket and nothing else then, and move the... This is giving me my last in crybaby bums, in crying about everything these days. I do understand why people are saying this, because if you're going to hire and fly out someone and pay for the flights and accommodation about a movie, do you actually think people are going to see this as a honest reaction? Now, as I've said multiple times, I've attended multiple events, and I would agree, no one believes influencers or reviewers, because you are literally trying to get your, oh, let's see the movie on the biggest screen ever. This was the greatest movie ever. You've seen it, you know. You've seen the quotes that people say to get on a billboard, to get on a poster, to get on a trailer. Then you watch the movie. You remember when people said the Flash movie was the greatest movie ever, comic book wise, and then it was it was pretty bad. It was average at best. So I understand the internet's perception, but my take on this is, if you're in the industry, you can't really comment on it. We all understand that no one's physically paid money, in the sense of studios may finesse you in the sense of, you know, invite you to a pre-event where you have a meal and your drinks are paid for and all this kind of stuff. I mean, realistically, that's just part of the marketing budget. It's not like that actually paying you in physical money, but they are taking care of you. But I've been to many events. I've not got to the level where a studio actually pays for your travel fee or your hotel. Studios generally don't tell you what to say. But then we look at a recent leak when it came to Ballerina, which I actually thought was a pretty good movie, and it sounded like any negative reviews would not be allowed. So it's a hard place to be in. But I think hiring content creators who are absolute fanboys is kind of a catch-22, because if someone's an absolute fanboy for a character and then they're part of the marketing tour or whatever, or they get to see Sonic early and you know they've been flown all over the world to multiple locations, you're not likely to believe them. But let's be honest, no one really goes by reviews anymore. The Rotten Tomatoes score doesn't matter. It's the trailers. The trailers are indicative to how well a movie does, or is, in terms of the opening weekend. Because as we know, movies have a 40 to 50% drop off. Marvel, DC movies are very front loaded, meaning that if you don't watch it opening weekend, you're probably not going to watch it. Let's be honest. Marvel and DC movies drop off so hard that they have to do most of their business opening weekend, unless it's a really big movie like Avengers Endgame or No Way Home or something like that. So I honestly think this movie is going to be great. I think it's going to be a pretty solid movie. I think it's going to be a feel-good movie. The only problem is you have Jurassic World Rebirth, which I've not really seen a good review come out for that movie yet, which is odd. And we also have the Fantastic Four movie, which there's been no real reactions yet except for the public test screening. But I do believe they will be popping up soon, as that movie comes out at the end of the month. So I will try to cover as much Superman stuff as I can going forward. Matt Reeves has finally handed in the script for Batman 2, which is solid, very interesting. So hopefully we'll get a movie this year. The post-credit scenes are kind of silly, and they shouldn't have really been post-credit scenes if they're true. But My Time to Shine has got an awful lot of things wrong previously. So who freaking knows? Like always, guys, I'll catch you in another video. But firstly, check us out on Twitter, WarstuG. Check us out on Instagram at Warstu to see the BFA's Man Reader Voice, and check us out on TikTok, Warstu. I'll be posting that very soon, and I'll catch you in another video. Very soon, guys. Catch you later.